The kiss lasted 3 seconds. 3 seconds that silenced every conversation in the room, froze the man whose lips I'd just claimed, and turned what was supposed to be a stupid joke into something I couldn't take back, and what would spiral into several situations that almost cost me my life. I should probably start earlier, maybe with the part where Iris dared me to do it. We were celebrating. My biggest translation contract yet, some legal firm that actually paid on time. And Iris had insisted on this bougie lounge in River North, the kind of place where the drinks cost more than my grocery bill, and everyone looked like they were auditioning for a crime drama. Dark wood, leather booths, lighting so low you could barely see your own hand. "That guy," Iris said, nodding toward the bar. "Corner seat. He's been sitting there for an hour without moving." I followed her gaze. Tall didn't even begin to describe him. He had to be 6'3", maybe more, with shoulders that blocked out the bottles behind him. Dark hair, jaw that could cut glass, and these eyes, gray, like steel in winter. He wore a black suit that probably cost more than my rent, and he sat completely still, just watching the room like he was cataloging every face. "So?" I said. "So kiss him." I laughed. "You're joking." "I'm dead serious." Iris leaned forward, her eyes doing that challenging thing they always did when she wanted me to prove something. "You're always talking about living more, taking risks. There's your risk. Walk over there and kiss the most intimidating man I've ever seen." My heart kicked up. That familiar rush of adrenaline I got whenever someone dared me to do something reckless. This was my problem. I couldn't back down. Ever since I was a kid, dares were my kryptonite. "If I do this," I said, already standing, "you're buying drinks for a month." "Deal." I didn't let myself think. Thinking was how you talked yourself out of the good stories. I crossed the room, aware of my heels clicking against the hardwood, aware that a few people were already watching me. The closer I got, the more I noticed about him. The way his fingers rested on his glass, completely relaxed. The stillness of his posture, like a predator that didn't need to move to be dangerous. He noticed me when I was 3 feet away. Those gray eyes locked onto mine, and something in my stomach tightened. Not fear, exactly. Something else. I didn't give him time to speak. I leaned in, braced one hand on the bar beside him, and pressed my lips to his. His mouth was warm, firm. He tasted like expensive whiskey, something darker, something I couldn't name. For exactly 3 seconds, I felt the shock of it, the softness of his lips against mine, the heat of his breath, the way time seemed to stop and stretch and compress all at once. Then I pulled back, already smiling, already ready to walk away and claim my victory. Except he didn't smile back. He stood, slowly, deliberately, and suddenly the man who'd looked big sitting down looked massive standing up. He was so close I had to tilt my head back to meet his eyes, and those eyes weren't angry. They weren't anything, just focused, entirely on me. "You just claimed a very dangerous man," he said. His voice was deep, quiet, with an accent I couldn't quite place. Eastern European, maybe. Russian. "In front of everyone who matters." My mouth went dry. It was just a dare. I didn't mean—" "What you meant doesn't matter." He stepped closer, not touching me, but close enough that I could feel the heat coming off him. "What matters is what they saw." I glanced around. The entire bar had gone quiet. Men in expensive suits were staring at us, some shocked, some calculating, one guy in the corner smiling like he'd just won a bet. "I'm sorry," I said, my voice smaller than I wanted it to be. I'll go." "No." His hand came up, not grabbing, just hovering near my elbow. Suggestion, not a command. "We need to talk. Now." "I don't even know who you are." Something flickered in his eyes. Surprise, maybe, or disbelief. "Then you're even more reckless than I thought." He gestured toward a door behind the bar, half hidden in shadow. "Upstairs, please." That last word, please, was what made me move. If he'd demanded, I would have run. But the fact that he asked, even in this quiet, terrifying voice, made me curious. Also, I could see Iris across the room, her face pale, mouthing, "What the hell did you do?" I followed him through the door and up a narrow staircase. My heart was hammering now, that adrenaline rush turning into something else. Fear? Yes, but also a weird kind of excitement. This was either the stupidest thing I'd ever done or the best story I'd ever have. The room at the top was small: a desk, 2 chairs, a window overlooking the street. No weapons, no bodyguards, nothing dramatic. Just him and me and the sound of my own breathing too, loud in the silence. He closed the door but didn't lock it. Stood near the window, giving me space. "Sit," he said. I didn't. "I'd rather stand." His mouth almost curved. Almost. "Fair enough. Are you going to tell me what I supposedly did?" I crossed my arms, trying to look braver than I felt. "Because from where I'm standing, I kissed a stranger on a dare. That's it." "In my world," he said slowly, like he was choosing each word carefully, "a woman doesn't kiss a man like that in public unless she's claiming him, declaring him hers. It's tradition. Old-fashioned, maybe, but tradition matters to the people downstairs." "Your world?" I repeated. "What world is that, exactly?" "One you should stay far away from." He turned to face me fully, and the light from the window caught his features. Sharp cheekbones, a scar near his hairline I hadn't noticed before, eyes that held too much weight for someone who couldn't be older than 35. "But you've made that difficult, now." "I didn't mean to make anything difficult. I just wanted—" I stopped. What did I want? To prove I could do it? To feel something besides the safe, predictable routine of my life? I wanted one night where something interesting happened. Interesting. He said it like the word tasted bitter. "You got that. Now there are men who think you belong to me. Rivals who will see you as my weakness. People who might try to hurt you just to hurt me." My stomach dropped. "You're serious?" "Completely." "Then tell them the truth. Tell them it was a mistake." I could. He moved closer, just one step, but it felt like the room got smaller. "But they won't believe me. They'll think I'm protecting you by denying it, which means you're in danger either way." I stared at him. This stranger I'd kissed on a dare. This man whose world apparently included rivals and danger and traditions I didn't understand. And somewhere under the fear, I felt something else. I felt seen. Really seen. In a way I hadn't felt in years. "What's your name?" I asked. "Konstantin." He held my gaze. "Konstantin Volkov." The name meant nothing to me. Should it have? "I'm Nadia." "I know." At my expression, he added, "Your friend said it. When you walked over, she called your name." "Right. Of course." "So what happens now?" I asked. Konstantin looked at me for a long moment. Something complicated moving behind those gray eyes. "Now you go home. And tomorrow, we figure out how to keep you alive." If you're already enjoying the story, don't forget to like and subscribe, friends. Your support means the world to me. I should have known better than to think it was over. Konstantin let me leave. No threats, no locked doors, just that quiet warning about tomorrow. Iris grabbed my arm the second I came downstairs, her nails digging in hard enough to hurt. "What the hell happened up there?" she hissed. "He said I claimed him." I tried to keep my voice steady. "Apparently it's some kind of tradition. I kissed him in front of people who think that means something." "Means what?" "I don't know. That I'm his? That he's mine?" He wasn't exactly clear on the details. Iris went even paler. "Nadia, do you know who that is?" "Konstantin Volkov. Why? Should I?" She didn't answer, just pulled me toward the exit, practically dragging me onto the street. We didn't talk during the cab ride. She kept checking over her shoulder, watching the cars behind us, and that scared me more than anything Konstantin had said. When we got to my apartment building in Pilsen, she walked me all the way to my door. "Lock everything," she said. "Windows, deadbolt, chain. Don't open for anyone." Iris, you're freaking me out. Good. You should be freaked out. She hugged me quickly, fierce and tight. I'll call you tomorrow. Please be careful. Then she was gone, and I was alone in the hallway, key in hand, wondering what the hell I'd gotten myself into. My door was already open, not broken, not forced, just unlocked. Cracked an inch, light spilling out from inside. Every instinct screamed at me to run. Call the cops, call anyone. But my body moved forward instead, pushing the door open slowly, my phone already dialed to 911 but not pressed. Nothing looked disturbed. My laptop sat on the coffee table where I'd left it, TV still on the wall. My translation files spread across the dining table, exactly how I'd arranged them this morning. Except the files were photographed. I could see it immediately, the way they were positioned, slightly off from where I'd left them, like someone had moved them to get a clear shot and then tried to put them back. My stomach twisted. I walked through the apartment, checking every room. Bathroom empty, bedroom untouched, kitchen. I stopped at the window, drew the curtain back. Across the street, under a broken streetlight, a man stood perfectly still. Dark coat, hands in pockets, face shadowed. Just watching my building, watching my window. My phone rang. I nearly dropped it. Unknown number. I answered. Hello? Check your kitchen window. Constantine's voice, just as quiet as before, but somehow more intense over the phone. How did you... Check it. I was already looking. There's someone down there. I know, that's not one of mine. My hand tightened on the phone. One of yours? You have people watching me? Not yet, but I will after tonight. He paused. The man across the street is Kozlov. I saw him follow you from the bar. He's waiting to see if you're alone. What does he want? To confirm what everyone already suspects, that you're mine. His voice dropped lower. Or to take you before I can protect you. The man across the street shifted his weight, looked up at my window. Even from this distance, I could feel the weight of his stare. I'm calling the police, I said. They won't get there in time. And even if they did, he hasn't broken any laws. Standing on a public street isn't a crime. Constantine's voice stayed calm, measured. I can have someone there in 3 minutes. Someone you can trust. Trust? I don't even know you. No, but you know what will happen if you're alone tonight. Silence stretched between us. Your choice, Nadia. Always your choice. But make it fast. I looked at the man across the street. He hadn't moved, hadn't looked away. I thought about what Constantine had said upstairs, about rivals, about me being a weakness, about danger I didn't understand. 3 minutes, I said. 2 now. His name is Yuri. Gray car, license plate ends in 847. He'll knock 3 times and say my name. Don't open for anyone else. Constantine. Yes? Why are you doing this? The pause lasted so long I thought he'd hung up. Then, because you didn't deserve what I brought into your life tonight, and because someone once told me that protecting the innocent is the only thing that separates men from monsters, he ended the call. I stood there, curtain clutched in my fist, watching the man across the street and waiting for a knock on my door. My hands were shaking, not from cold, from the realization that everything had changed in the span of 3 seconds, and I didn't know if I'd ever get my normal life back. The gray car pulled up exactly 2 minutes later. An older man got out, maybe 60, built like he used to be a boxer, moving with the kind of careful precision that spoke of military training or worse. He looked up at my window once, nodded, then crossed the street toward my building. The man under the streetlight watched him come. They stared at each other for a long moment, some kind of silent conversation happening between them. Then the Kozlov man, if that's what he was, turned and walked away, disappearing into the shadows between buildings. 3 knocks. Konstantin Volkov sent me. I opened the door to find Yuri standing there, hands visible, posture non-threatening. He had kind eyes. Sad eyes. The kind that had seen too much. Miss Rowe, he said quietly, I'm here to make sure you sleep safe tonight. And that's when I knew. Whatever world Constantine lived in, whatever tradition I'd accidentally invoked, I was in it now, whether I wanted to be or not. I think it's obvious that I'm already screwed. I didn't know what I had just walked into, and it was about to get a whole lot more dangerous. Subscribe right now if you're rooting for me to survive this. Yuri didn't come inside. He sat in the hallway outside my door all night, and when I woke up at 7, he was still there, reading a newspaper like this was completely normal. Coffee? I offered, feeling ridiculous. Already had some, thank you. He folded the paper neatly. Mr. Volkov will want to speak with you today, when you're ready. What if I'm never ready? Yuri's smile was small and sad. Then he'll wait, but the Kozlov family won't. That was day 1. By day 3, I'd almost gotten used to having a shadow. Yuri followed me to the coffee shop where I did most of my translation work, sat 3 tables away, and pretended to read while actually watching everyone who came near me. He drove me to the grocery store, waited outside my yoga class, never spoke unless I spoke first. He reminded me of someone, but I couldn't figure out who. On day 5, Constantine showed up at my apartment with Thai food. I didn't invite you in, I said through the cracked door. I know, but you haven't been eating properly. Yuri told me you've been living on coffee and protein bars. Yuri's a snitch. Yuri cares about your health. Constantine held up the bag. Pad Thai, spring rolls, and that mango sticky rice you ordered last week from the place on Ashland. I stared at him. How do you know what I ordered last week? I pay attention. He didn't look apologetic about it. May I come in? Just to eat. I promise I'll leave right after. Against my better judgment, I opened the door. He moved through my space like he was memorizing it, took in the translation files on my table, the book stacked everywhere, the photo of my parents on the shelf by the window. His gaze lingered there for a moment, just a flicker of something crossing his face before he locked it down. We ate in silence at first. He sat across from me, not beside me, giving me space even in my own apartment. It should have felt invasive having him here. But instead, it felt steady, like having a storm wall between me and everything outside. Tell me about your work, he said finally. Why? Because I want to know you. Not the woman I put in danger. You. So I told him about the contracts, the legal documents I translated from Russian, Polish, Mandarin, about how I'd discovered I had a gift for languages when I was 12, how my father used to say I had a brain like a sponge. Your father, Constantine said quietly. What did he do? Freight company, import-export. Nothing exciting. I pushed rice around my plate. He died 5 years ago. Car accident on the interstate. They said he fell asleep at the wheel. Constantine's jaw tightened. Just for a second, but I saw it. What? I asked. Nothing. I'm sorry for your loss. You looked like I said something wrong. You didn't. He met my eyes. Tell me about him. What was he like? I should have found that question strange, but something in his voice made me answer honestly. Protective. Almost paranoid sometimes. He sent me to boarding school in Connecticut when I was 15, even though we couldn't really afford it. Said he wanted me to have opportunities. I smiled despite myself. He used to call me every Sunday, no matter what. Ask about my classes, my friends, if I was staying out of trouble. Were you? Staying out of trouble? Not really. I've always had a thing for dares. I noticed. His mouth almost curved. Almost. What about your family? I asked. Dead. Most of them. He said it without emotion, like he was reading a grocery list. My father was killed when I was 16. After that, I was on my own until... He stopped abruptly. Until what? Until someone gave me a chance I didn't deserve. The way he said it made me think of that photo on my shelf, the way his eyes had lingered there. After dinner, he helped me clean up. Insisted on it, actually. And as he washed dishes in my tiny kitchen, this massive, dangerous man with killer instincts scrubbing my plates, I felt something shift in my chest. Konstantin? Yes? Thank you. For the food. For Yuri. For not making me feel like a prisoner. He turned off the water, dried his hands, looked at me with those gray eyes that held too much weight. You're not a prisoner, Nadia. You never will be. You can walk away any time. And the Kozlov family? I'll handle them, either way, whether you stay or go. Why? Because you didn't ask for this. And because... He stopped himself, jaw working like he was chewing on words he couldn't say. Because it's the right thing to do. He left after that, but Yuri stayed, as always, taking his post in the hallway. I went to my shelf, looked at the photo of my father, young, smiling, his arm around my mother before I was born. There was something in his eyes I'd never noticed before, something guarded, careful, like he was hiding something. I opened my laptop and searched my father's freight company, found the business registration, the articles of incorporation, and buried 3 pages deep a list of shell companies I'd never heard of, all connected to his name. My father's legitimate business was a lie, and somehow I knew Konstantin had already figured that out. I waited until morning, let the anger build until it was stronger than the fear. When Konstantin's black SUV pulled up outside my building at 8, I was already on the sidewalk, coffee in hand, jaw set. Yuri got out first, eyebrows raised. I need to talk to him, I said. Now. Yuri made a call. 3 minutes later, I was in the back seat, being driven to an address in the West Loop I'd never been to. A building that looked like condos on the outside, but felt like something else entirely once we went through the private entrance. Konstantin's office was on the top floor. Floor-to-ceiling windows, minimalist furniture, walls lined with books in languages I recognized and some I didn't. He stood when I walked in, surprise flickering across his face. Nadia. I didn't expect... Who was my father? I cut him off, pulled up the business records on my phone and shoved it toward him. Really? Because the man I knew ran a small freight company and wore the same 3 suits on rotation. He didn't own shell corporations in the Caymans. Konstantin took the phone, looked at the screen. Something in his expression cracked, just for a moment, grief bleeding through before he locked it away again. Sit down, he said quietly. I'd rather stand. Please. The word again, the one that made me listen. This is going to be difficult to hear. I sat. My heart was hammering so hard I could feel it in my throat. Konstantin moved to his desk, opened a drawer and pulled out a photograph, slid it across to me. My father, younger, maybe 30, standing next to a teenage boy with dark hair and gray eyes I'd recognize anywhere. They were both smiling. My father's arm was around the boy's shoulders, protective, proud. That's you, I whispered. 17 years old, 3 months after my father was killed. Your father found me on the street, half dead from a beating, and instead of walking past like everyone else did, he stopped. Konstantin's voice was steady, but his hands weren't. He took me to a hospital, paid for everything, and when I had nowhere to go, he gave me a job. At his freight company. Yes and no. Konstantin sat down across from me. The freight company was real, but it was also cover for something else. Your father helped people escape bad situations, domestic violence, gang threats. He moved them, gave them new starts in different cities. That's what the shell corporations were for, funding safe houses, fake documents, protection. I stared at him. My father was a criminal. Your father was a good man doing questionable things for the right reasons. Konstantin leaned forward. He saved my life, made me into something more than a weapon, taught me that power means nothing if you don't use it to protect people who can't protect themselves. But I gestured vaguely at the office, at him, at everything. You're not running safe houses. People are terrified of you. Because your father died, and the network fell apart without him. Others moved in, people who didn't share his principles, people like the Kozlov family, who saw profit instead of protection. His jaw tightened. I took over what I could, changed what I had to, built something that could stand against men who would have destroyed everything your father worked for. You became exactly what he was fighting against. No. The word came out sharp. I became strong enough that men like the Kozlovs think twice before hurting the innocent. That's the difference. I wanted to argue, wanted to tell him he was wrong, but I kept looking at that photo, my father's smile, the way he looked at teenage Constantine like he mattered. How did he die? I asked. Really? Constantine's eyes closed briefly. A meeting went wrong. Someone betrayed him. I still don't know who. He was shot leaving a warehouse on the south side. By the time I got there, he stopped, swallowed hard. I held his hand while he died, and the last thing he made me promise was to keep you far away from all of this. The room felt too small suddenly, too hot. You've been watching me for 5 years, from a distance. I made sure you were safe, that you had opportunities, that no one from this world ever touched your life. He looked at me with something raw in his eyes. Until you walked up to me in that bar and kissed me in front of everyone who would use you to hurt me. I didn't know. I know. That's what makes it worse. He stood, moved to the window. Your father kept you innocent, sent you away, buried his tracks, made sure you'd never have to know what he really did. And I destroyed that in 3 seconds. I stood too, anger and grief and something else warring in my chest. You should have told me, the first night. You should have explained. Would you have believed me? He turned. Would you have trusted a stranger who told you your father's entire life was a lie? No, I wouldn't have. I didn't ask for this, I said, hating how my voice shook. I didn't ask for you to protect me or watch me or bring your world crashing into mine. I know. I didn't ask for any of this guilt or responsibility or... My voice broke. I didn't ask to find out my father was someone. I didn't know. I know. He stayed by the window, giving me space even though I could see in his eyes that he wanted to move closer. And if I could take it back, if I could go back to that night and stop you from walking toward me, I would, in a heartbeat. But you can't. No. He looked at me like I was something fragile, something already breaking. But I can keep my promise to him. I can protect you, keep you safe until this is over and you can go back to your life. I stared at him. This man my father had saved. This man who'd been watching over me like a ghost for 5 years. This man who looked at me like I was both a responsibility and something more. Something he didn't have words for. I don't want to go back, I heard myself say. His expression shifted, careful, wary. What do you want? I want the truth, all of it. I want to know who my father really was, what he built, what you've become. I moved closer. And I want to understand why you've been protecting me when you clearly have better things to do with your time. There's nothing better, he said quietly. There's never been anything better than keeping you safe. The way he said it made my breath catch, made me realize this wasn't just about a promise to a dead man. This was something else, something that scared him. Constantine, I have something else to show you. He opened another drawer, pulled out a worn journal. Your father's. He kept it the last 5 years of his life. I think you should read it. He held it out. I took it with shaking hands. Opened to a random page. If anything happens to me, Volkov, keep her innocent. Let her hate me if she must, but keep her free. She deserves a life I couldn't give her, one without violence, without fear. Promise me. My father's handwriting, his words, written to the man standing in front of me. I looked up at Constantine. He loved you. He saved me. There's a difference. No. I touched the page. He loved. You like a son. I can tell. Something cracked in Constantine's expression. For just a moment, I saw the 17-year-old boy in that photograph. Lost, grateful, desperate to be worthy of the man who'd chosen him. I failed him. Constantine said, voice rough. I was supposed to keep you away from this, and instead I pulled you straight into the center of it. That wasn't your fault. That was mine. I kissed you, remember? You didn't know what it meant. No, but I'm starting to understand. I closed the journal carefully. And I'm choosing to stay. Not because you're protecting me. Not because of some promise to my father. But because I want to know what happens next. He looked at me for a long moment, then quietly, what happens next is dangerous. I know. You could get hurt. Worse than hurt. I know that too. Then why? I thought about my father, about the life he'd hidden from me, about this man who'd spent 5 years keeping me safe from shadows I couldn't see, about that 3-second kiss that had changed everything. Because maybe I'm tired of being protected, I said. Maybe I want to understand what my father died for. And maybe I stopped, started again. Maybe I want to know you, not the bodyguard, not the promise keeper, you. Constantine's eyes darkened. He took one step toward me, stopped himself. If you stay, there's no going back to normal. Then I guess it's a good thing normal was starting to feel boring. His mouth almost curved. Almost. You're insane. Probably. I held up the journal. Can I keep this? It's yours. It was always meant to be yours. I tucked it under my arm, looked at him standing there, fighting something in himself I couldn't name yet. What now? Now you go home, read, think about this. His voice dropped lower. And tomorrow, if you still want in, I'll show you exactly what your father built and what I've become. I spent that night reading every page of my father's journal. His handwriting got shakier toward the end, more urgent, like he knew time was running out. One entry stopped me cold. Nadia has her mother's kindness, but my memory. Photographic, the doctors called it. I've kept her away from the languages that matter, kept her focused on French, Spanish, the safe ones. If she ever learned Russian, Polish, the codes we use, she'd be invaluable, and that would make her a target. Better she never knows what she could do. I read it 3 times, felt something click in my brain. By morning, I knew what I had to offer Constantine. Something more than just accepting his protection. Something that would make me useful instead of just vulnerable. I called him at 7. I found something. I need to see you. 2 hours later, I was back in his office, my laptop open, 3 of my translation files spread across his desk. These contracts, I said, the ones I've been translating for that legal firm, they're not actually legal documents. Constantine leaned forward. Explain. The Russian is wrong, not grammatically, structurally. Words in the wrong order. Phrases that don't make sense unless... I pulled up my notes. Unless they're hiding something else. A pattern. I think it's code. His expression shifted. Sharp. Focused. Show me. I walked him through it. How certain words appeared at specific intervals. How the sentences, when rearranged, spelled out locations and dates and numbers that looked like shipping manifests. My father did this, I said. Didn't he? Hid messages in translation work? Yes. Constantine was staring at the screen like it held answers to questions he'd been asking for years. The legal firm that hired you? Do you remember the name? Volkov and Associates? His jaw tightened. That's mine. I've been trying to decode Kozlov communications for months, and you just... He looked at me. Your father was right. You have a gift. He also said it would make me a target. It will. If anyone finds out you can do this... Constantine stopped, shook his head. No, absolutely not. This is exactly what I'm trying to protect you from. What if I don't want protection? I closed my laptop. What if I want to help? Nadia, listen to me. The Kozlov family thinks I'm your weakness, right? Something they can use against you, but what if I'm not? What if I'm something else? I held his gaze. Let me decode their messages, find out what they're planning, give you an advantage. and put yourself directly in their sights. I'm already in their sights. You said so yourself. I moved closer. At least this way, I'm useful. At least this way, my father's gift means something. Constantine stood, paced to the window. I could see him fighting something. The promise to my father, his need to keep me safe, and something else. Something that looked like pride. If you do this, he said finally, not turning around, you're all the way in. No more pretending you're just a civilian. I'm protecting. You become part of this, part of my world, and there's no going back to normal. I stopped being able to go back the moment I kissed you. He turned then, looked at me with those gray eyes that held too much. You'll do exactly what I say. Follow every security protocol. Work only from locations I approve. Deal. And if at any point this becomes too dangerous, if I tell you to stop, you stop. No arguments. Okay. I mean it, Nadia. I know. I walked toward him, stopped just out of reach. So, do we have a deal? He studied my face, looking for doubt, maybe, or fear. But I'd made my choice. I'd read my father's journal, understood what he'd built, and decided I wanted to be part of continuing his work, even if that meant stepping into danger. One condition, Constantine said quietly. What? He crossed the distance between us, held out his hand, palm up. If we do this, if we're partners, then we trust each other, completely. No secrets, no lies. Can you do that? I looked at his hand. Rough palms, scarred knuckles, a hand that had probably done terrible things, but also the hand of the boy my father had saved, the man who'd spent 5 years keeping me safe from shadows. I placed my hand in his fingers closed around mine, warm, careful, like I was something that might break. Partners, I said, partners. We spent the next 6 hours working. He brought me encrypted Kozlov communications. I decoded them, found patterns, translated messages that revealed shipping routes and meeting locations and names of people in their organization. Constantine sat beside me, close enough that our shoulders touched. And every time I found something useful, he'd lean closer, his breath warm against my ear as he studied the screen. You're brilliant, he murmured at one point. I'm just doing what my father taught me. He'd be proud of you. I glanced at him, found him already looking at me. Something had shifted between us. That careful distance he'd been maintaining had narrowed to almost nothing. Constantine? Yes? Why does it feel like this is more than just keeping a promise? His hand found mine on the desk, threaded our fingers together. Because it is. It's been more since the moment you looked at me in that bar. I just didn't want to admit it. My heart kicked against my ribs. And now? Now I'm trying very hard not to kiss you when you haven't had time to think clearly. What if I don't want to think clearly? His eyes darkened, but he didn't move closer. Ask me again when this is over, when you're safe, when you're sure. I'm sure now. You're running on adrenaline and delayed grief. He squeezed my hand gently, released it. I can wait. And somehow, that made me want him even more. 3 days later, we had everything we needed. Constantine's federal contact agreed to meet, a straightforward evidence handoff that would expose the Kozlov trafficking routes and end their threat permanently. No violence, no risk, just documentation that would put them away for decades. Iris helped arrange the meeting location, some abandoned warehouse district on the south side. Neutral ground, she said. Safe. I should have questioned why she was so involved. Should have noticed how nervous she'd been lately, how she avoided looking me in the eye. But I was too focused on the end goal, finishing this so Constantine and I could figure out what we were to each other without danger hanging over us. The night before the meeting, Constantine came to my apartment. No food this time. Just him, standing in my doorway, looking at me like he was memorizing every detail. Come in, I said. He did. Moved through my space like he belonged there now, sat on my couch, and I sat beside him, close enough that our knees touched. Tomorrow, he said. After we hand over the evidence. We'll be safe. You'll be safe, he corrected. The Kozlovs will know I was behind this. They'll come after me, but you'll be clear. Free. Free to what? To go back to your life, your translations, your friends. He looked at me. Everything you had before I complicated it. And if I don't want that? His hand found mine, rough fingers against soft skin. What do you want? I want to know what happens next, between us, when there's no threat, no protection detail, no promises to dead men. I turned to face him fully. I want to know if this, I gestured between us, is real or just adrenaline. It's real, he said quietly. It's been real since you pulled away from that kiss and smiled like you'd conquered the world. I just didn't let myself acknowledge it. Why not? Because you deserve better than a man with blood on his hands. I touched his face, made him look at me. My father had blood on his hands too. He just hid it better, and you know what? He was still a good man, still saved people, still loved me. My thumb traced his cheekbone. Maybe good and bad aren't as separate as you think? Constantine's eyes closed. He leaned into my touch like he'd been starving for it. When this is over, we figure this out. Together, okay? Okay. He left an hour later, but before he did, he stopped at my door, turned back, and said something that made my heart stop. If anything goes wrong tomorrow, promise me you'll run. Don't look back. Don't try to help. Just run. Nothing's going to go wrong. Promise me anyway. I promise. He kissed my forehead. Just that. Soft and brief and aching with everything we hadn't said yet. Then he was gone. I should have known, should have felt it in my bones that something was off. But I woke up the next morning feeling hopeful for the first time in weeks. Constantine picked me up at 2. Yuri drove. We didn't talk much during the ride, all of us too focused on the finish line to make small talk. The warehouse was exactly what I expected. Concrete, shadows, the smell of rust and old rain. Constantine kept me close, his hand at the small of my back, his body positioned between me and every entrance. The federal contact arrived 10 minutes later. Tall, sharp features. Something about him felt familiar, but I couldn't place it. He smiled when he saw me. You must be Nadia. And you are? Evren Rowe. He held out his hand. I believe we're family. The world tilted. What? Our father. He said it so casually, so certain. He had another son before you. Me. Different mother. But same father. I looked at Constantine. He'd gone completely still. Predator. Still. You didn't know, Evren said, not a question. He didn't tell you about me. Typical. He was always good at secrets. What is this? I stepped back. Constantine. Stay behind me, he said quietly. Too quietly. That's when I heard them. Footsteps. Lots of them. Federal agents flooding in from every entrance, guns drawn, surrounding us. But they weren't arresting the Kozlovs. They were surrounding Constantine's men. I'm sorry, Evren said, and he almost sounded like he meant it. But this is where it ends. You used me. I stared at him. The meeting, the evidence, all of it, was designed to get Volkov exactly where I needed him, with documented proof of his operation, his men, his crimes. Evren's expression hardened. He took our father from us, turned him into a criminal, got him killed, and I've spent 5 years building this case to take him down. That's not what happened. That's exactly what happened. His composure cracked. Our father was a good man before Volkov, before he got pulled into this world. And then one night, someone shot him in a warehouse just like this one, because of the life Volkov brought him into. You don't understand. I understand perfectly. He looked at Constantine. On your knees. Now. Constantine didn't move, just stood there, hands visible, calm despite the guns pointed at him. Let her go, first. She's innocent in this. She stopped being innocent when she chose you. Evren's jaw tightened. When she helped decode Kozlov communications. When she became your partner. He looked at me. Did you think I didn't know? I've been watching you both for weeks. Iris kept me updated on everything. My stomach dropped. Iris? She didn't know who I really was. Just thought she was helping her boyfriend keep his sister safe. His smile was bitter. Everyone's so easy to manipulate when they think they're protecting someone they love. Constantine's hand found mine, squeezed once, and I remembered his words from last night. Promise me you'll run. Don't, I whispered. I have to. He looked at Evren. This is between us. Let Nadia walk away. I'll come quietly. No resistance. Just let her go. I don't think so. Evren raised his weapon. She made her choice. Now she lives with the consequences. And that's when I understood. This wasn't just about arresting Constantine. This was about destroying everything my father had built, everyone he'd saved, including the man standing beside me, the man I'd somehow fallen in love with in less than 3 weeks. I stepped in front of Constantine, put myself between him and my half-brother's gun. Move, Evren said. No. Nadia, don't be stupid. If you want to destroy him, you'll have to go through me first. My voice didn't shake. Because our father would have wanted you to know something. Constantine didn't corrupt him. He saved him, gave him purpose, made him into the man who helped people escape violence and slavery and death. I moved closer to Evren. Our father chose this life. He chose Constantine. And he died protecting what they'd built together. That's not true. It is. I read his journal. Every word. He loved you, Evren, wherever you were. But he also loved Constantine like a son. And he'd be devastated to see you destroying his legacy like this. Evren's gun wavered, just slightly, but enough that I saw the crack in his conviction. He abandoned us. He protected us, both of us, in the only way he knew how. I held out my hand. Don't become the monster you think you're fighting, please. For a long moment, nobody moved. Federal agents with guns drawn, Constantine's men ready to fight, Yuri somewhere behind us, probably calculating odds, and me, standing between my half-brother and the man I loved, betting everything that blood still meant something. The gunshot was so loud it took me a second to realize I'd been hit. The bullet caught my shoulder, not center mass. Evren's aim had shifted at the last second, some instinct making him pull the shot even as he fired. But it was enough to send me backward into Constantine's arms, enough to make everything go sharp and blurry at the same time. Nadia! Constantine's voice, raw, terrified. Don't, stay with me. I looked up at him, tried to smile. I'm okay, You're not okay. You're bleeding! He pressed his hand against my shoulder, and the pressure made me gasp. Yuri! Now! Everything happened fast after that. Yuri appeared, disarming Evren with brutal efficiency. Federal agents shouting, confused, looking at their commanding officer standing frozen with his gun in Yuri's hand. And Evren, staring at me, at the blood on his hands that wasn't metaphorical anymore. His voice broke. I didn't mean, stand down. He said it to his agents, quiet, shaking. All of you, stand down. Sir, I said stand down. Evren's face had gone pale. This operation is compromised. We're pulling out. But the evidence, destroy it. He looked at Constantine holding me. All of it. This never happened. You were never here. The agents hesitated. Then slowly they lowered their weapons, started backing toward exits. Evren knelt beside me. I could see tears in his eyes. I'm sorry. God, Nadia. I'm so sorry. I believed. No. My voice came out weaker than I wanted. You thought you were doing the right thing. I almost killed you. But you didn't. I reached for his hand, squeezed it despite the pain screaming through my shoulder. Our father. He would have wanted us to know each other, to be family. I don't deserve. None of us deserve anything. We just choose what we can live with. I looked at Constantine. I chose him, and I'd choose him again. Evren's jaw worked. He stood, looked at Constantine. Keep her safe. Keep the promise our father couldn't. I will. And if you don't, if anything happens to her, then you can come for me, and I won't stop you. They stared at each other, two men connected by the same ghost, the same love, the same impossible promise. Then Evren was gone, disappearing into witness protection, Constantine would tell me later, erasing himself to protect what was left of our father's legacy, to protect me. I woke up in a private hospital. Constantine, asleep in the chair beside my bed, his hand wrapped around mine, his face drawn with exhaustion. Hey, I whispered. He jerked awake. How do you feel? Like I got shot. I tried to smile. But alive, that's something. That's everything. He stood, moved closer, pressed his forehead against mine. Don't ever do that again. Don't ever put yourself between me and a bullet. Can't promise that. Nadia, you'd do it for me. You know you would. He pulled back, looked at me with those gray eyes that finally showed everything he'd been hiding. Fear, love, relief. You're impossible. You keep saying that like it's a bad thing. 6 months later, I stood in Constantine's office, our office now, reviewing contracts for the translation consultancy we'd built together. Legitimate work, helping refugees navigate legal systems, finding them jobs, housing, safety, my father's legacy, rebuilt. Better. Constantine watched me work. I felt his gaze more than saw it. That weight I'd gotten used to, that steady presence that meant safety. Come here, he said quietly. I turned, found him kneeling beside my desk, a small box in his hand. My breath caught. I promised your father I'd keep you safe, he said, and I've done that. But now I'm asking you for something different. He opened the box. Inside was a simple gold band, my father's ring, the one I'd seen in photos. Let me love you. Let me build a life with you. Let me be your partner in everything, not just work. I slid out of my chair, knelt in front of him. That's the first promise I actually want you to keep. He slipped the ring onto my finger, kissed me, slow and careful and full of everything we'd survived to get here. When we pulled apart, I touched his face. 3 seconds changed my life. Regret it? Not even for a moment. He pulled me closer. And somewhere, I like to think my father was smiling, knowing that the boy he'd saved and the daughter he'd protected had found each other, had chosen each other, had kept his real legacy alive, not the violence or the secrets, but the love, the choice to protect, the promise that family meant something worth fighting for, even if it started with a dare.